On this week's episode of Motivational Minutes, criminal justice advocate Donna Hylton shares how we all can get more involved to support efforts for prison reform. In another interview, you mentioned, well, there was a statistic already that said 85% of the women who are incarcerated, they were already subject to some sort of abuse in their lives. But you, in this interview, said you suspect it could be higher than that.
It's higher,
Yeah.
without a doubt. I can stand on that firmly. You know why I say that? Because even with dealing with the women that I know, some of them never told. They still
Mm,
don't, people still don't know, and I know
right, right.
some of us know, and so we base it by that. I have women across the country just not hasn't told anyone that are in the system, right? And there are women that are not in this, and this is not, this is just synonymous to the women that are incarcerated. This is synonymous to women, unfortunately, everywhere, right? And so we're talking about we went from a population of a little over 2,000 women back in 1973, 78, to close to 300,000 women, right? Vast majority Black women. We're the fastest growing population, Black and brown women. White women too have caught up a little bit, right, in race, but we have to look at the dynamics of that as well. Vast majority. I would say, I would educatingly say that I believe it to be like 93 to 95%.
Mm, wow. And for our audience, mostly it's a college age audience. However, it's non-traditional. So the age range of our listeners can be 18 years old up to, 50 or 60 years old if someone's in college who's an older non-traditional student. And so I wonder what sort of call to action would you suggest for people who do care about this? Because you're going to get some who say, as you mentioned earlier, well, I don't care. They did the crime, but all that. You're going to get those people. So
Yeah.
you can't change their minds. But for those who do care, how do you suggest they get involved? Do they write legislators? Do they write their local people and say, hey, bring
Yeah.
programs? How does that work?
So one of the things I like to educate people on, especially right now with this talk about the rollbacks with our reforms that we got passed, right? Bail reform for one, discovery, raise the age. First of all, raise the age was an argument that was turned into a bill, turned into law, for not incarcerating a minor, right?
Mhm.
And we can't continue to see prison being filled or jails and detention centers being filled with 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds, 15-year-olds. We have to do something, right? We can't continue to incarcerate children and it's like, that's okay. Like, no, it's
Right.
not.
Yeah.
And discovery, like there are things that weren't produced when a person is going through the hearing processes and things like that within the judicial system. That's wrong. If you have information, that's why people always, you hear people say, well, I was innocent, but I know I was because whatever, but they had, evidence and they never released it. Like that's
Hmm.
discovery, right? It's
Yeah.
like, oh, well, why can't in a timely fashion at that? So there's a lot
Right.
of there. And then bail reform. We hear this stuff about, oh, this person was on bail, this person was let out on bail, but this person, this is a no, you know what? They're telling you the 1 to 2% of the people that were formerly incarcerated or had some impact, system impact, a system impacted in whatever their history is, as opposed to the 98% who never had any criminal justice involvement.
Hmm.
They're not
Right.
telling you that. And so they're highlighting, and I'm not saying it's right, but they're spreading this fear and lies and creating this picture, this narrative that's only people that have been involved with the criminal legal system. And we're saying, no, that's not true. We have the stats and they're correct. That's why you
Mm.
keep having these counter arguments. You see it when a paper comes out with something, but then we fact check. It's like, oh, when you fact check, it's
Right.
like, oh. And so what we like to say to people, I like to say to people, reach out to someone like me.
Mm.
That's how it first. First get to know me. First get
Yeah.
to know us. See who we are. Recognize our humanity. See that we're just like you. Maybe some people just didn't get a chance. People talk about second chances, third chance. So some people didn't get one chance. And so maybe it's okay to reach out and see who your neighbor is. Really see who your neighbor is. So if you want to get involved, you want to understand more, reach out to those organizations. This is New York City or wherever you are. There are a lot of reform, and 501c3 nonprofits doing this work, across the country, but especially here in New York. Like reach out to us, see who we are, find out why we're doing this work. I didn't come out after 27 years being an adolescent, going in the system and coming out a middle-aged woman to go in to do this work. I haven't had an opportunity to basically live. But it's so important to me because I see that we're brought ourselves into a very dark place. And I'm fighting for us to maintain that light that's within each of us and within this world. Because we have to. We have to. We are much better than this. And we can't continue, we should not continue to label people and look at people as monsters and by the worst thing they've ever done or been accused of, right? Some people have not done it, been
Yeah.
accused. We can't continue to do that. So I encourage people, that action call is before you even look at that stuff, get to know who we are.
Well, I would just say that one of the most intriguing parts of your story for me is the redemption part, right? It is the idea that you are not, you are more than your past. You are not just what your circumstances were. And that's a big one. One of the interviews I did recently with Stedman Graham, he had that statement where he said to me, you are not the result of your circumstances or your past. You are the result of the future you want to have. So I think for this being a leadership podcast, it was really important because who knows, young people out there who are listening, they don't know what kind of situation they may find themselves in, and it's a mistake they may make, but it doesn't mean that that has to be your life.
You don't have to be that mistake for the rest of your life. You don't have to be. You can learn from that mistake and you can move forward, pay it forward, share that mistake with some others and say maybe they can see themselves in it. And, that's what happened many years ago. We had young people resonating. We had part of a writing group with Eve Ensler. And we had this documentary, What I Want My Words to Do to You, that was out there. There were kids writing, especially to me, getting caught up in this, people that were saying they were going to go here and do this or whatever and found out it was something else and they walk right into a situation, and so help prevent some from doing that. And, it's about sharing. This is how we know the story of the world, right? It's by sharing, talking it into existence and just letting people know and to allow people to see that we're all in this together. We're all in this together. We're not going to survive if we don't recognize that. We're not going to survive. We continue to try to find things that divide us as opposed to unite us. We can't continue to do that. And so I encourage young people, old people, encourage those that also might think like, oh, well, yeah, you did crime, so you do the time. I encourage you to get to know, really find out, really hear the truth. Listen to the person, because oftentimes we're not allowed, our voices are not allowed, to be heard. You're not allowed to hear our truth. You're told a narrative, something scripted, created, so it can do exactly what they want it to do. Continue to fill up the system, continue to disparage communities of color, continue to sexualize and criminalize young Black girls, right? And boys too, our children, all these things. And then understand why we keep saying that. There's got to be a reason why we keep saying the same thing. We've been saying the same thing for a while. It's got to be some truth in there,
Yeah.
And I encourage people to find out the truth. And the truth is just to recognize the person that you might not have wanted to recognize before.
Subscribe today for more inspiration on the go.